I respect the president. He's a good family man. I think he's earnest. I think he's trying his best. Where we are today, I mean, just look at the scorecard. Economically, we're in a failed position. Internationally, we have more problems than ever before. I think we have a generational opportunity to get the numbers right and to unlaunch the entrepreneurial and innovative magic of this country. Yeah. And I think we have a generational opportunity to get our position right in the world as well.
Do you want to pull out of Afghanistan immediately? I know you didn't support the effort in Libya. There's a whole conflict now about whether or not the president's abiding by the War Powers Act. But do you think it would be wise to pull out, recognizing, I assume you recognize we have a war on terror?
Of course.
Do you think it would be best to finish the job first?
And a war on terror is an asymmetrical effort requiring an asymmetrical presence in Afghanistan, not 10,000 boots on the ground. But I think that is more aligned with the needs of intelligence gathering, special warfare capabilities, and also training some of the locals on the ground. That's not 100,000. I think, with Karzai in power, with al-Qaeda that is in the sanctuaries of Pakistan, the time is right to continue with laser-like precision on the bad guys while drawing down a very heavy and expensive presence we have in Afghanistan.
How do you overcome, I read one poll that only 35% of Republican voters knew who you are or know who you are. Is that a big obstacle for you? Well, do you feel like you're on an introduction tour for people?
In today's media-saturated world, I think it's a temporary challenge. We come here to the media capital of the world. We launch a campaign. I think in very short order, people will begin to understand who we are, what it is we stand for, and where we want to take this great country of ours.
All right, Governor, thank you so much for your time.
Sean,
Good luck on the campaign. We'll see you out there, I'm sure.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And coming up next, it is the developing story that could spell disaster for President Barack Obama in 2012. Now, Frank Luntz will be here to help break down the president's dramatic overnight plunge in the polls. And then later, firefighters honoring some of the heroes of 9/11 are being targeted by a group of atheists who want to see these street signs taken down. We have a heated Hannity debate on this unbelievable story. That and much more straight ahead. And tonight, as we've been reporting, we are following a developing story in Washington at this hour. The White House is scrambling to respond to a dramatic overnight drop in President Barack Obama's approval rating. Now, according to Gallup, Americans now disapprove of the job that the president is doing by a 3-point margin. Now, all told, we're looking at a 9-point swing with the president's disapproval number surging 5 points in only 24 hours. Now, all of this comes as another contender has stepped forward to dethrone the anointed one in 2012, and that's former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman, who you just heard from. He started his day by announcing his candidacy for the presidency in New Jersey. Now, later he traveled to New Hampshire, where he attended a town hall meeting, and with that, his campaign was officially off and running. Here with more on the president's plunge in the polls and the newest GOP contender, we bring in the president of Luntz Global, pollster Frank Luntz. Frank, welcome back.
Sean, I got to warn the media right now, don't get hyperbolic over these polling numbers. A 9-point switch in a single day happens when the stock market drops 800 points or something really bad happens in the battlefield.
There hasn't been any good metric on the economy now for months for this president. There's nothing we can cite since he's become president, so it's an ongoing issue. All right, forget about that. I think it's significant because it's an ongoing trend. Let me ask you this. What did you think of Jon Huntsman?
I thought Huntsman had a lot of Reagan-esque qualities in him. And there are 3 specific areas that I was very impressed with. One holdout. First is that he talked about intergenerational decline, and he talked about our kids not having the same standards as us. Sean, it's something that we've heard now for several years, and it really bothers people on the right that their kids are not going to have the same opportunities. Second is his focus on civility and his insistence that we treat people with respect rather than yelling at them. That is something that I also hear is very important, particularly among Christian conservatives. And third is just the overall essence that America can recapture what we used to have. It was very Reagan-esque. But here's the problem, Sean. On social issues, he's not with the mainstream of the Republican Party. 1/3 of GOP primary voters identify themselves as social conservatives and will not agree with him on the marriage issue and some of his other positions.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Look, right. Every candidate, and we've interviewed them all have issues that they have to deal with. For example, the last time I interviewed Mitt Romney on the day that he announced I thought he actually gave the best answer to date that he had given on Romney Care. And he talked about it being a state issue, et cetera. You and I have discussed the proper language about that. But as I think if I were to guess what might come back, what John Huntsman may have to deal with, and he did a lot of remarkable things. I mean, he implemented a flat tax. Conservatives love the idea of flat or a consumption tax. School vouchers. He reduced the sales tax, tax credits for industry, all conservative ideas. Then he called Obama a remarkable leader. He explained that. He has his position that he's standing on, which is civil unions, immigration, the children of illegal immigrants get to go to school, and he seemed to back away a little bit from the cap and tax issue. Those would not be in the conservative corner. How did you think he dealt with those?
No, and it's one of the reasons why he's not running in Iowa. It's a very smart decision on his part because he would not be credible or competitive in Iowa. New Hampshire is much more economically conservative. Iowa and South Carolina are much more socially conservative. The issue for John Huntsman is that he is the perfect candidate for the general election because these are positions that are much more centrist. He's going to have these challenges because Republican primary voters are looking for two things. Number one, they absolutely want to defeat Barack Obama, and they will not vote for a candidate they think that can't do it. And number two, they want someone who's going to fight for their issues, fight for their principles, and not give in on the things that they think are important. Huntsman is absolutely electable and maybe the best candidate against Barack Obama, but on some of these core issues, he's just going to rub social conservatives the wrong way.
Yeah, I think especially cap and tax, civil unions. I think he explained away why he said, you know, he was a remarkable leader. I don't think that's going to go too far. It was interesting as I was doing my research and preparing for the interview. He has a very strong pro-life record, and even one particular bill that he passed in Utah allowed women to know the pain that their fetus would go through. That was pretty interesting to me.
So he's got a record that allows him, but you know what these campaigns are going to be like. You know that it'll take a few months, but the negative ads that'll come out against him will be vicious. They'll be ferocious.
All right, let's look at some of the ads.
Tear him apart on those issues.
Well, let's look at some of the ads, the recent ones you've dialed. Go ahead.
Great. Let's show the humorous one first, that there is a way to talk about the deficit, and the way to talk about it is to make fun of how parents treat their kids, because it's really how Washington is treating us. Let's take a look.
It's true.
Honey, the credit cards are almost maxed out again.
Already?
Well, you bought the Cadillac and the house, and then you bought all those other houses. And then you bailed out the banks.
How bad is it?
We're $14 trillion in debt. And we're barely covering half of what you spend.
We'll get more credit cards. I need you to grow up and get a job.
Not the highest numbers we've seen, but funny.
It's funny, and it's still an effective ad, Sean. And if we've got time, there's a second one, which is much more serious, and it talks about the foreign policy implications of our debt. Let's take a look.
I was surprised Democrats were higher on that one.
Because they take a look at the implications of it, and this is not just an economic issue. This is actually a genuine threat to America's security overall, and both Republican. This is where Obama is so weak, Sean. He doesn't realize that the debt ceiling, they blame him for it. They blame him for the waste. They think that he's running to spend even more money by supporting a debt ceiling increase, and they see that it has economic consequences and foreign policy consequences.
All right, Frank Luntz, good to see you. And coming up tonight, NBC may have apologized for editing out Under God from the Pledge of Allegiance in last weekend's U.S. Open coverage, but is an I'm sorry, too little, too late. Plus, we're going to tell you who's actually angry over this new Brooklyn, New York street sign meant to honor fallen heroes from 9/11. You won't believe this controversy next. And tonight, the shocking fallout from NBC omitting Under God from the Pledge of Allegiance during the official U.S. Open coverage last weekend. We're going to have more on that in just a minute. But first, to the men of New York City's Engine 202, Ladder 101. Well, they were not only brave heroes, they were brothers. And 7 of the group's finest firefighters, they died on 9/11. And now part of a road in Red Hook, Brooklyn, has been renamed 7 in Heaven Way in their honor. But not everyone is happy about it. In fact, a group of local atheists are angry with the new street sign. They're arguing it's, quote, improper for the city to endorse the view that heaven exists. It links Christianity and heroism. While another insists, quote, the problem with the sign is that you're assuming that you know what they felt deep down. You're assuming they even believed in heaven. You got to be kidding. So what's the world coming to when we can't even commemorate the ultimate sacrifice of 7 fallen firefighters without controversy? Joining now for a fair and balanced debate, Jay Sekulow from the American Center for Law and Justice and the executive director for the Center for Inquiry in New York City. Michael Dodora is with us. I'd like to point out, by the way, that we did invite the New York City atheists to provide us a guest for tonight's show to defend their position. They were unable to join us due to a previous commitment, so Mr. Dodora will be representing their side of the argument. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sean.
You know something?
Thanks, Sean.
It's I guess, Michael, I guess the only way to put this is it seems that those on the left are not happy until we actually remove the name of God from the public square. You know, we can't have nativity scenes. Kids can't mention God in their valedictorian address. And you can't have this honor for these brave men that nobody except a few people that don't even live on the street are offended about. Why? Where's your tolerance?
Right. Well, this family, you know, I should say that this family has every right, of course, to observe the sacrifice of these firefighters. And, of course, I appreciate
I didn't
what
ask
these
you
firefighters
that. I asked
did.
you, where's the tolerance of people on the left, and why is this your
Sean,
mission to push God out of the public square?
The mission here is simply separation of church and state. As I was going to say,
and
the
where
family
does it say
has, the
separation
family
of
has
church
every
and
right.
state? Where?
Well, the issue is the Establishment
Clause.
Clause.
It's not in our Constitution, is it?
It's the First Amendment of the Constitution.
No, it's not.
Basically, what the First Amendment says.
The Constitution doesn't
The
say
First Amendment of the Constitution, let me just finish my thought really quickly. The First Amendment of the Constitution says that the government cannot endorse religion over non-religion or one specific sect of religion. Have you ever read?
Yeah, I've got a copy right here. You want me to
The Constitution actually says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And, of course, Michael, here's the question. What religion is being established here? Do you really believe, as the press statements of the American Atheist Association say, that by saying 7 in Heaven Way, which is, by the way, it's like having St. Paul Street, St. Mark Street, Rabbi Eliezer Street, which is also in New York, the idea that now all of a sudden you have a reference to 7 in heaven and you've established, what, a national religion in the United States? That is absolute nonsense. Both legally and just logically. It makes absolutely no sense.
It's certainly not establishing an official religion, but it's endorsing a certain type of religion.
That's the case.
Actually, the signs that you mentioned before are a little bit different because they're recognizing a specific human being and his role as a rabbi or priest of something of that nature.
Well, I would
this
think
is a little
that
different because the government is endorsing a certain view.
Obviously, I think that's completely constitutional. But, I mean, 7 in heaven, what religion has been established? What official established religion has been put in place by saying 7 in heaven?